Bam. We are live. If you're watching this on YouTube later, in my time it's 6:53, so we're gonna do this at 7. So you could probably fast forward like 7 minutes in. Post the link on Twitter. We are about to post the link on Twitter. 4 concurrent viewers. The 4 coolest people are already here right now. It's harvesting season. It's true. It's true. It's always vibe harvesting season. But actually now it really is. I really feel like I've been picking it up for spring. I was posting about that yesterday on Patreon. I feel like spring, summer of power is truly imminent. Last summer I had like hardcore summer of power. I got so much done, it was insane. And I really feel like I am making that happen again. All right, I'm going to post this on Twitter. I'm going to quickly organize my paints while we can talk, whoever's in the chat. Then we're going to do this thing. I like to put the TV emoji in when I post it on Twitter. I feel like that, what's a cardinal emoji? I put in TW emoji and it brought up a cardinal. Forbidden emojis I am accessing. Yo, what's up, Peter M? Spearheading the triumphant return of live television. Yeah, it's back. It's big. Nice, just finishing workout. That's dope. I have not been working out as much as I should. It's that time again. Yeah, it is. All right. Posted it on Twitter. I'm just going to quickly organize my paints. I always start this a few minutes early just so people can get in. I'm going to throw the gloves on. How you guys doing? We're deep in quarantine season right now. It's been going on for a while. Everyone's kind of over it. I wonder how like the normies are doing. I wonder if they're cracking under the immense pressure or not. Got boxes packed up here. Got kind of a schedule going on with the studio now. Usually on Mondays I get like sketchbook and Patreon stuff together. Tuesdays I do like, and Mondays also I do kind of like studio housekeeping shit, like getting packages out, managing orders and stuff like that. Hitting like small jobs, like if people need sketches and stuff like that. And then the rest of the week I hit commissions and just get into it. This is gonna be a pretty cool week. I got some like wedding pictures going on. People need pictures for their weddings. That's really dope. Very wholesome. Book cover. What else do I got going on? Someone commissioned me to do something really dope. I guess I could mention it. I didn't ask her if I could show anyone, but someone commissioned me to do these images of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and they're looking so good, man. It's so good. I want to show you guys, but it was a commission, and I don't know if they want me to show people yet or anything, but it's looking really dope. Organizing the paints. I wish I could play music during this time, but I'm always worried I'm going to get like copyright striked. You know what I mean? But I was playing some Japanese punk music in the studio, and it was going really well. Really bringing the vibe so hard. I feel like I'm missing some colors, but we're just going to roll with it. Spectrum red. No one likes that. Getting some cerulean blue paint in the mail. I'm out of cerulean blue. It's been crippling the process, but it's okay. Forced me to adapt, forced me to expand. Am I like missing colors right here? Let's do a little color check. Let's do a little check right now. A little mic check. I'm also going to set the focus. Let's set that focus. I ordered a bunch of books today too. That's pretty tight. So I got a lot of cool shit coming in the mail right now. Camera control, focus, autofocus off. I feel like it's pretty good. Let's see. The paint tubes are perfect. I'm actually going to make sure you can read the paint tubes. Yeah, it seems like 20 is perfect. Yeah, let's go with that right now. Apply. Configure the windows. Oh. Alright, we got 2 minutes. I have like all these windows I have to like stack to make sure I can see like the chat and OBS and all that stuff. So how you guys doing? Are you guys surviving quarantine? I feel like no one really cares, honestly, right? Like, don't you guys feel that way? I feel like, does anyone really care? I mean, like, I care. Like, I'm not going out and, like, being irresponsible, but I feel like day to day, like, I don't know. What I expected going in was that people would be, like, cracking out, like, on the news every day, and, like, everyone would be, like, super obsessed with it, but I kind of feel like no one cares anymore. That's my zeitgeist analysis. Even when I talk to other people like on the phone, they're kind of just like, yeah, whatever. Except my friends that work in healthcare. They're still kind of like freaking out. All right. Got the windows stacked. Okay. Make sure I got all my shit lined up. Cadmium scarlet, cadmium red, cadmium orange, cadmium yellow, lemon yellow. Sap green. I don't have viridian. Last time my paint box like spilled out everywhere. And I haven't been painting since then. If I don't have viridian, it'll be okay, but it'll be kind of annoying. Let's see, got more lemon yellow over here. More sap green. Weird Easter with no church. Dude, tell me about it. I was actually stoked to go to the church that I wanted to go to. Obviously, I couldn't. There's a church near my house that I really like a lot. It's really beautiful, and I haven't been there in a while. I can't find viridian green, but it's okay. We'll make do. We'll roll without it. Not a big deal. Did you miss the intro? No, man. After the intro, we're locked in. We're going hard. Right now, I'm like clearly in shooting the... I was going to say shooting the shit mode, but I'm trying to cut down on the cursing. But right now, we're clearly in casual mode. It's 7:01. We'll give everyone one last minute. I'm actually just looking around my desk to see if I can find this tube of viridian green paint from when my paint spilled last time. You think I could have like checked that beforehand? Oh shit, is that it? No, that's not it. But it's not a big deal. I have a bunch of other greens. We could change it up a little bit. Hopefully that's what's gonna happen. Yeah, we'll just roll with it. Am I still thinking about Orthodox versus Roman Catholic? Yeah, I'll probably be thinking about that for the next like year at least. I think about that every day. Man, you guys should see my bookshelf. Yo, my bookshelf, I rearranged it today. I had like 10 minutes where, it was longer than that. I had a little bit of time where I was backing up my hard drive, which I did in a very inefficient way. And, I try and like stay productive. So I was like, oh, I have a little bit of time. I rearranged my bookshelf and it's looking insane. I have like religious texts. I have Christian religious texts on one shelf, 2 shelves that are books about religion. Then I have the occult, esoteric shelf. Then I have like a third eye and trippy stuff section. Then I have like politics, history, and culture section. And then a few books of poetry. It looks dope. I might post it on Twitter sometime. Okay. That's really interesting. With church closures across the globe, this might have been the lowest attendance at Easter Mass since apostolic times. Yeah, that's actually crazy. All right. It's 7:02. You guys know the policy. I'm not going to make you guys wait for the late people. We are going to do this right now. That's how it happens. What is up, guys? I'm actually just going to pull the YouTube window up here. I like seeing what you guys are seeing, and then also the stream. I think the stream's like a minute delayed. Let's see, though. Perfect. Oh, now we're hearing it. Perfect. Cool. All right. How you guys doing? We were just talking, but some more people came in. How's it going? I am amped to be here doing this once again, as always. Let's just jump right in, man. I don't really have too much to say, honestly. Sometimes I like to talk a lot in the beginning, but kind of feel like we'll just jump right in. I am going to adjust the brightness really quick just to make sure the brightness is ideal right now. Let's see. Let's kick the exposure up and see what happens. Boom. Yeah, I think that is better, actually. Cool. So let's just jump right in. It's been going really well on the painting show situation. It's only been getting better. If you've been watching, I'm going to configure the camera a little bit. So if you're watching me on like a VR headset, you might want to just take it off for a second. If anyone does that, by the way, hit me up because that would be really cool. Yeah, so it's been going really well on the painting show situation. I say this every time, but I'm kind of just feeling it out as I go. I think that keeps it interesting. I don't really script it or plan it out or anything ever. Maybe I will if I mess it up one time, but otherwise it's going pretty well. And I've been kind of just jumping in with the loose painting, a little bit of watercolor, a little bit of drawing, painting style, not really planning it. And I feel like that's what we're going to do right now. Last time every time's been like the best one so far, not to like hype it up too much, but let's just jump right in. And I've really been feeling the circle composition thing. I mentioned this last time, but I've pretty much only ever worked my whole life in vertical rectangle format. The thing is, obviously, you're watching this on a screen. The screen is lateral rectangle. I don't know. I could switch it over to a lateral rectangle like this, but I don't know. There's something about this composition where I just doesn't really like do it for me, even though it would fit perfectly in the frame. Maybe I should do it, but I'm not going to do it right now, honestly, because I don't want to. So I'm going to keep it vertical, and instead of squaring it off, instead of making a square, I'm going to make a circle. Kind of changes it up a little bit. So I'm going to strap this in right here. And I guess whatever we end up making is always kind of a product of whatever I'm thinking about in some way. Sometimes I do like to, have like a specific theme or idea in mind. Like a few weeks ago, we had that tower drawing, and I was thinking about like my dad and his friend died and all this like dark stuff, and we painted this tower, and it was kind of like a very calculated, sort of aiming at like a particular set of ideas being portrayed visually. Sometimes though, I like leaning into the kind of symbolic abstraction thing. Let's just go for it this size. Throw it down in black. Perfect. And that's what I think I'm going to do right now. Didn't really plan on this, but really quick, I think I am going to bust out a book, actually. One sec. So I'm going to show you guys something. Sometimes people don't know a book like this exists, so I'm going to show you guys real quick. It's right over here on my shelf. Boom. Got 3 of them. All right. So, talk a lot about like symbolic thinking, visual thinking, using symbols to like communicate ideas and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people don't know that this type of book exists. I remember when I first found a book like this, and I was like, oh, it's a whole genre of book I actually didn't know about. There are all these books that are basically like, I call them like symbol dictionaries. I guess they're like symbol encyclopedias. But there are all these books, and they basically are just a full-on like dictionary or encyclopedia of symbols. And it's really good for your creative process. This goes for anyone if you're like a musician or a writer or play director, whatever you do. This is like a really cool thing to have around. This is probably the best one. This is called the Book of Symbols. It's published by this like Jungian Institute. And you can see if we just open it up here, it's literally just full on like, oh, cockroach, that's a symbol, shell, cobra, worm, mushroom, lotus, flower, and it's broken up by like plant world, animal world, island, desert. So sometimes, if I feel like I'm getting a little stale, I guess you could say, if you feel like, I'm recycling like the same ideas and same visual thinking over and over, sometimes I'll poke into one of these books and it'll give me some ideas. Like, that's actually a pretty cool one. Orphan. It's a really interesting concept. Even modern stuff like gun is in here and that kind of thing. knife, dagger, king and queen. I'm sure you can imagine, by the way, this pot. Look at this pot. Legit. I'm sure you can imagine, flipping through here, and even the colors are in here. And I don't know, not that I don't have any ideas right now. I actually kind of do, but I thought I would just show this because, sometimes things like this are good to have around for your own creative process. Let's open up to a random one and see what it is. Cripple. Okay, let's try and get a better one than that. Let's see what this is. Cat. Nice. Pretty classic. I see cats around my house. We're probably not gonna paint a cat today though. It's not really the vibe at all. So some of them are full on illustrated like that. Some of them are smaller. This is kind of like a supplementary thing for me. People ask me what books to get. I never name this one, but this is more just a supplementary thing. You can see this one is literally like a little dictionary where you would look up honey, hood, hook, hope, horns, horse, face, falcon, fall, fan. Oh, fascies, nice. Fasting, fat, father, fawn. So you hear it's literally like a dictionary. Just to look stuff up in. This one has a lot of pictures. That's what this one's called. And another one I really recommend in case you are stuck inside and doing the book buying thing is this one. This is a really, really, really good book. So I recommended this book to some people, and they got copies where the pictures inside are in color. Mine are in black and white. I felt like kind of a chump when I saw that, although the black and white Renaissance art aesthetic is tight. So there is an edition where all this stuff is in color. I didn't know that actually. But this one is really cool because if you start using books like this, what starts to happen, in my opinion, or what happened to me, I guess, is sometimes you feel like you're kind of floating all of a sudden. You have these millions of options out in front of you, and sometimes that happens to me when I'm putting together a picture. Things just get a little too arbitrary, or they used to really before I had a grip on my own symbolic style, I guess you could say. And all of a sudden it's okay, let me look in here. Oh, basket, that's really cool. Okay, I put a basket down. What should I put in the basket? Okay, spider, that would be cool. Yeah, spider, and a pomegranate. Oh, and an obelisk, and it kind of just becomes arbitrary. You're just pulling words out of a dictionary and putting them into some kind of free-form poem, and all of a sudden nothing really means anything. But here, this one's really cool because this is actually a phrase they use in the book, but I just like how it's phrased. The Renaissance painting aesthetic, the symbolic language of oil painting in the Renaissance and Christian art in the Renaissance, this author describes it as a complete crystallization of Western man's spiritual experience. It's just a total symbolic matrix that has all the aspects fully explicated. And for that reason, this book is really great because it goes into, it says signs and symbols in Christian art. Really what it should be called is signs and symbols in Renaissance Christian art. This is a full exposition of Renaissance, or Christian, I should say really, Christian symbolism as it's used in Renaissance art. And it's really awesome. I use this book a lot, actually. You can see it goes in human body, blood, foot, hair, wings. It has the plants in here, all the different animals and stuff like that. Actually, it's funny because I was thinking about this today. Maybe we'll do something like this. You can see there's this image here. It says whale, but it's a guy getting eaten kind of by a giant fish. Been really riding the fish thing recently. Maybe we'll do something like that. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to showcase these books because I'm always talking about symbol sets and symbolic thinking and stuff, but that's a really good concrete manifestation of all that stuff. Anyway, perfect. Throw this paper down and let's get it going. Orphan. Everyone likes the Orphan. Orphan's kind of a downer. Well, I'll check the chat real quick and then we'll hop in. Flip to 5 random articles in the book and draw something based on it. Yeah, I could do that. You know what I am thinking is that one time, I don't think we're going to do it right now. I'll kind of hype it up a little bit before we do it. One time though, maybe next week, I want to do a picture that is entirely dictated by the chat. Short of suggestions a dick and stuff like that, I'll just take people's suggestions for the symbols I should use. I think that would be really tight. Kind of like Twitch Plays Pokemon. That was a long time ago, but in painting form. I'm going to bring the camera down a little bit. Cool. Still focused. Perfect. Yeah, someone said they were thinking about Pico Mirandola today. Yeah, I made the title about him on purpose. We'll see how it goes. Okay. And how are we going to get this one started? Getting it started is always kind of kind of the big deal, right? I guess I'll talk a little bit about what I was thinking for this one. Thinking about spring, it really is like hardcore spring style. From studying art, one thing that I really took away from Japanese art, for example, is the way their artists take inspiration from the seasons all the time. Pretty much all Japanese art has some kinship with the seasons and goes with whatever season it is. And I've always found that really interesting because no matter what I'm working on or what I'm doing, if I ever hit any kind of wall or don't really know what to do, drawing inspiration from the seasons is really useful. And right now it's like the very beginning of spring. Like winter is kind of totally done. It did actually snow here today for a few minutes, which was weird. But maybe we'll jump in on that. I'm really thinking about the fish thing right now. I don't know. Maybe we will start with a fish or something like that, and we'll just kind of see where it goes. Choosing the weapon over here. I think we're going to go with this size. It's either this size or it's this size right over here. I think we'll start with this one. They look about the same. Are they the same? One's an 8 and one's a 10. In case anyone's buying stuff at home. And what color are we going to start with right now? Last time we started with the cadmium scarlet. That's like a really powerful, like straight red. I'm feeling like we're going to do the opposite in a way and start with blue. Even though green is technically the opposite of red on the color wheel, I think of blue as the opposite of red. They kind of have like opposite energies, so we'll get started over there. I was looking at a lot of like medieval fish images this week. I'm kind of getting ready to start like another project that's going to be revolving around a lot of fish stuff. So, and I don't have cerulean blue. Oh, it's like this nice green blue. It's kind of like the perfect color. Oh, I have my water over here. Right. And there is kind of like a newish, I guess you could say, symbol that I've been working with. Which is the flying fish. I was sketching out some stuff like 2 weeks ago and I drew out this flying fish. And I was just thinking that it really is like such a perfect... I'm going to grab the paper towels over here. It's such an interesting, like underutilized symbol. I haven't really seen very many like woodcuts or like graphics of like flying fish. And I just thought it was really tight. It's such a perfect embodiment of so many things that... Maybe we'll work that in somehow. If there's a theme this week, let's see. Do I want to start with this fat brush though? Let's see. Maybe I want to start with like a thinner brush. Let's see. Yeah, this is what I want. This is perfect right here. What is this? It's a 4. Cool. So we'll come down a little bit. And, we'll start with the blue. If there's a theme this week, it's pretty interesting because I had all these different things pop up. I mean, this is like a theme of my life, obviously, because I'm really into esoterica, but I'm also Christian, so there's an interesting like back and forth there. And if there's a theme this week, hold up, so let's get going here. I'm just gonna throw down. Do I want to use the fish shape we just looked at, where the guy is like getting eaten by the fish? Yeah, I think I do. Or we'll put something in the fish's mouth, but I'll kind of like prep it. And when I want the fish to look kind of like tough, I like to give it kind of that downward, like frowning mouth. It makes it look a little bit less doofy, honestly. And I'll make it like a lot bigger, just in case you want to like put something in there. There we go. And then I'm going to come down and kind of try and give it like a longer head. I've been really trying to get into the medieval animal aesthetic where you can tell the person was not looking at the animal when they painted it because it's like the 1350s, so there's not like fish just like sitting around the art studio. But they're still like good drawings. I think that's really cool aesthetic. Let's get in and I'll put a little bit of like scale on the back of the head here. I still want it to be like graphic, but I'm just gonna go for it. Look at this kind of point up here. Cool. And I'm gonna paint in the fish body. I kind of want it to be coming out a little bit. Maybe I'll see right now. So now I have a little bit of a question where am I gonna have it touching the bottom of the circle, or am I going to have it extending under the bottom of the circle and coming back up, or am I going to try and contain it within the circle? I think graphically it would be best if I contained it, but I didn't leave that much room. we're just going to go for it. I'm going to give it kind of like a swollen, puffed out chest. Yeah, that's perfect. Nice. There we go. And I'll come... See, now it's like I could come down and give it like the full graphic punch, or I could kind of try and curve it back myself. It's safer if I do the curve, but I don't know. I like to change it up here, so we're going to do it this way. Cool. Yeah, that looks cool. We'll bring it up here. Boom. Nice. Get a little bit of that weird like woodcut where like it's kind of like drawn in like a weird way energy. And then the tail, have it kind of balance out the face a little bit. Come up. I guess this is kind of like a koi tail. It's kind of like the main tail I use, probably from looking at so much Asian art, but we'll see. And I want the other side to like hook around like that, and then we'll get that energy. There we go. Back in. Perfect. And I'll kind of just shade out the blue a little bit and get it going. Yeah, so there's like a theme this week. It's really interesting because, like I was saying, I'm really into esoterica, but I'm also Christian, so that obviously creates a interesting, it's an interesting vibe all the time, in my opinion. I like it anyway. It's my vibe, so I like it. And it's funny because so many weird things happened like in that vein to me this week. Like someone messaged me saying like, hey, like I'm really into all this like occult and like esoteric stuff, and you know, my friend told me to hit you up, like, you know, that happens sometimes, but it happened this week, which is interesting. And then also I found out, I posted about it a little bit, but I was looking at this woman that does these like, she's kind of like the most famous like new agey making tripped out kind of cards. If you're like a new agey girl, you've probably seen her work. Her name's like Doreen Virtue. I was never into that, but it came up in my perusal, you could say. And I read this Facebook message from her. She's like really famous. Like she definitely got like super rich selling like new age products and stuff. So this isn't like just some random person. And yeah, she asked her publishers to like stop making all her work because she became Christian, and she stopped publishing all her work and made this post and a video. The video got taken down. Maybe her publishers were like, yo, chill, this is way too much. Where she was saying that lots of her fans had like demonic energy, and that she realized that all this new age stuff was like actually demons. And I looked into it, and it was pretty interesting because she herself had like communication like with entities and like beings of light and stuff. And then she totally flipped and was like, yo, actually these are demons, and I feel bad that I like promoted people like working with this stuff and like using it in their spiritual life. And she was like, don't do any of this stuff, like don't buy my stuff, like don't. And she wrote this whole thing about how new age is like actually like satanic. And it was pretty interesting, man. Okay. I guess I'm gonna go a little bit of a different direction. Normally I would do this last, but I'm gonna start like shading in the fish over here. I normally don't use this color Prussian blue, but let's see what the deal is over here. So yeah, that was really interesting, honestly, was seeing that stuff. I was never really involved in New Age, obviously, but... And then I was reorganizing my bookshelf. I was looking at all the esoterica stuff. I don't know, it's really interesting. There's actually a priest who I was corresponding with. He actually messaged me, which was kind of cool. And we were talking about it, and that was pretty interesting too. I don't know. I don't really have like a point as usual. Okay, how do I want to do this with the... Well, let's see. I wish I had like a little bit of white. I just want to kind of see the character of like the Prussian blue. It's a really interesting color. It kind of is like phthalo blue if you know your pigments and stuff like that. I'm kind of worried it'll throw off the balance of like what I'm doing, but I also don't really care. Let's just go for it. We're here to just make it happen. You can probably even see on the stream, like you can see how dark this blue is. So let's see. Maybe it's time to integrate a new color. Get it going on. I'm actually just gonna drop some in here. There we go. Get like that nice like watery effect. Get it kind of like bleeding out a little bit. This could be way darker down here. Cool. Perfect. Water in general is one of my favorite like symbols and creatures that live in water and stuff like that. Kind of never gets old. Yo, I see people in the chat talking to me. If you want me to see it, you have to put my name. Like, see Russell Graves wrote at Owen Cyclops, so it's highlighted in red. He said telephone. I don't know what that means. But yeah, just tag me and then I'll see it. Someone asked, what was her name? Oh, her name's Doreen Virtue. If you search for Doreen Virtue, it'll definitely come up. Actually, on her cards, it says Doreen Virtue, PhD. I don't know what she has her PhD in. I also don't know what manifestation of Christianity she converted to. I was going to check it out, but I never did it. Okay. And yeah, let's kind of like finish out the fish. Maybe we'll like work from the bottom up. Let's see how it goes. So yeah, I also ordered a bunch of books today, and I had that on my mind a little bit. I ordered a book about Pico, Mirandola. That's why the stream is called this. Not that we really need to talk about him, but he's kind of a funny guy. In case anyone doesn't know, he was this guy. I'm also going, I like to explain like everything I'm doing. Normally what I've been doing for a really long time is, damn, I need a note card or something to like write on over here. Just grabbing some paper. So normally what I've been doing for a really long time is I'll do the scales, kind of like, I guess, I was going to say how you'd imagine, but it's just how I do it. Just like kind of normal scales, I guess you could say, where it's just like a scale pattern, kind of like the most basic thing you could possibly do. But I noticed in a lot of these medieval designs, it's a good color for drawing, looks good. They do this instead, where the scale is just like implicated by putting these kind of lines in. They don't actually touch. And I kind of like the flavor that gave, so I'm going to switch it up and do that instead. Makes it look a little bit older, I guess, a little less complicated. Yeah, so in case anyone doesn't know, I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but I'm American. I don't speak Italian, so that's such as life. Yeah, Pico Mirandola. Yeah, so he lived in Florence. Pretty sure it was Florence. This is not like, I didn't like just research this to talk about it, so I'm kind of just going off the cuff right now. But he lived in Florence. And his whole thing was like integrating a lot of like esoteric stuff, some of which I'm like, all right, that's cool. And some of which I'm like, nah, not really. Like Kabbalah. I don't really like Kabbalah, honestly. I actually really don't like it for a variety of reasons. Maybe we'll talk about it. Some stuff like astrology and, different like things that would be called hermetic, I guess you could say. And integrating them with Christianity. I'm not saying that I'm about that. I'm just saying I'm telling you about this guy. And it's really funny because he wrote this whole book. I forget how many theses it is. It's like a lot, though. I want to say it's like 300 to like 500 or something. It's called like the 500 Theses, let's say, or something. And it's all these like point-by-point posits about his view of like integrating like all of esoterica and kind of like all of history into this like ultimate like new understanding of the universe. And he made this appointment with the Pope, and he was really excited to like show the Pope, and like he thought it was going to be this whole like philosophical revolution, and that he was going to like kick it off. And then before he even met the Pope saw the book and was like, "Wow, this is heretical as fuck. You're totally excommunicated." And he excommunicated him, and they never had this meeting that he was like really excited about. And it's pretty funny. That's just like the beginning of his story. From there, he wrote another book. I forget what it's called. I didn't really plan on talking about this. I like to keep it casual, so you can look into it. But then he wrote another book that's like kind of an attempt to like vindicate himself and to explain like where he's coming from and why he like thinks the way he does. And it might even be called like In Defense of Man or something. It has like a pretty like kind of attempting to be epic sounding title. I'm gonna come in and just bring the blue out a little bit into here. And then we'll probably just come back in with the colored pencils to see how it goes. That looks pretty good. I'll just kind of go with it for now. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why I'm drawn to him as a figure. I'm drawn to people all the time. Doesn't mean I like them. I mean, it doesn't mean that I like agree with them. Like I was posting about Origin a while ago, and people were like, "Oh my God, Origin!" Like no, but it's like just looking into it. I'm not gonna like become a follower and like put a poster in my room. But at least in this stage in my life, I like something about the guys who are like a little too weird, a little too out there. Although Pico Mirandola, actually, I looked into it. Of course I looked into it. I've like known about this for a while. He kind of did take it like way too far. Like he was talking about like Jesus, like doing Kabbalah and all this stuff. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, dude, you took it too far. You took it too far. So got a little too excited there. How can I send super chats to my boy? Yeah, man. They make me get like 400 or like 4,000 hours of watch time before I can accept super chats. So I appreciate the offer, but I can't do it yet. I think I'm at like 2.2 thousand hours of watch time, which is kind of crazy actually. I've only done like 11 episodes of this. But eventually we'll do it. Eventually we'll do it. The studio would accept tips for sure. I'm not above that. All right, that looks pretty cool. I'm going for a little like naive painting style, I guess. In here, I'll also come in with some yellow, and it'll get looking a little bit more fresh. Picked up Oration on the Dignity of Man. That's what it's called. Nice. That's exactly what it's called. Yeah, it's called Oration on the Dignity of Man. It's funny because I haven't actually read the whole thing. People claim it as like the beginning of like humanism and like a very like humanist text, but I don't know. I feel like he's a little too theological for that, in my opinion, but that's just kind of my view. Okay. It looks pretty dope. I'm okay with it right now. Speaking of ghosts, you're going to do more of the ghost comics? Yeah, it's funny, actually, because I'm telling this whole story right now. I was thinking about doing one with the ghost of Pico Mirandola. Yeah, I will do those more. I like that experiment because it was kind of like getting the newspaper comics vibe into the whole situation. So yeah, I did enjoy that. I do want to go back to doing it. Okay, and I am going to put a guy in this fish's mouth. I like to always use something that I haven't done before when I do these streams, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to put a guy in this fish's mouth. You got to figure the guy, people getting eaten, people getting like interacting with animals is like pretty much the oldest. It's like the oldest art theme, right? It's something that people can very like primally relate to. Like in the do I want to give him hands or do I want to go totally flat graphic? Normally I would go flat graphic, so let's give him like little like floppy hands, just little like symbolic hands. Like they're there, but I'm not going to paint on like the fingers and shit. Yeah, there we go. That's perfect. You got to figure like cave paintings and stuff like that. People painted humans and animals, so it's pretty classic, pretty well established. Okay. And head style, kind of same deal. Normally I would go straight circle and just leave it graphic, but we're trying to do things we haven't done before here. So I'm going to paint in a little bit of a chin. I'm going to come back with the head. A little bit of a neck. We'll give him some like medieval hair. And I'll come up with the neck. Yeah, it looks dope. And I'm going to give him some medieval hair where it kind of just comes down. It's like nondescript like guy hair. Even give him an ear. And then the eyes, I'm going to have it ambiguous if they're even like, oh, I smudged some blue. Yeah, we'll just roll with it. It's not a big deal. Yeah, like that. He's distraught. He's distressed. Give him a little nose. Boom! Getting eaten by a fucking whale. That sucks. Cool. That looks tight, actually. And let's shade up with the cobalt blue. We'll see how different it really is from the Prussian blue. You can see the Prussian blue has like a stony color. That's like how I would describe it. But the cobalt blue isn't really going to have that effect. It's more, it's like softer almost. It's like just a different animal. I actually want to hear your thoughts on why Kabbalah is whack, says Weekly Hoss. Yeah, well, it's interesting, man, because it's one of those things where, like, first off, it's like, what is meant by Kabbalah, I think that a lot of people, well, we can just start with that. I mean, it's really interesting because you have to kind of acknowledge with, like, a lot of that stuff, the perspective that, like, we're coming at it from. So, like, you and I are both, I mean, I don't know who you are. I'm assuming you're not like an Orthodox Hasidic Jew, like, watching my painting stream. You're probably just, like, a normal, or random, I should say, not normal guy like me. So for most Western people, when you step into that labyrinth that's called, like, the Kabbalah, it's like, what are you getting? I said that about the Orthodox Jew thing. So if you ask some Orthodox Jew, like in Brooklyn, the Kabbalah is like, kind of like a set of like esoteric views of things that have been passed down from X, Y, and Z. Like maybe the guy would tell you it comes from like Moses. Maybe the guy would tell you it's from like, 11, 12, 1300s. from Spain or something like that if he actually like was more of like a modern scholar type person. Actually, I doubt that they would say that. Why would they say that? Or you can come at it from the total opposite angle and come in through like Aleister Crowley world, and then it almost is something completely and totally different. Like if you got a bunch of books on Kabbalah and you got a stack of 6 books that was from like Crowley and the Golden Dawn, like a bunch of early 1900 style magicians and people like that and occultists and stuff, that's something radically different than if you're going to go in the other route and go in through like the hardcore Jewish mystical esoterica route. Hold on a second, I will keep talking about that, but I want to get another color in here. I don't want to go just straight blue, so I'm actually going to break out the watercolor pencils and lay down some like fat areas of water, and then we'll keep it moving. Very visually pleasing. Very visually pleasing. And we're going to go with, what is it? It's going to be like ultramarine red shade. Actually, it says phthalo blue, reddish. Let's see how this color looks. So yeah, I don't really like, well, I guess it's easier for me to like zoom in on one part of it. I'm kind of like rambling as I'm answering this because I'm also like making this picture right now. I don't really like, I mean, I'm pretty much like the most antithetical to someone like Aleister Crowley. That's like really like the maximum level of like what I'm not about, you could say. And that kind of like Kabbalah with a Q as it's often spelled. I just feel like it's kind of a perfect example of how, well, hold on. I'm going to pause there because I want to talk about something. I don't know what to put down here. I could, so as I'm making the picture, it's kind of like, I've talked about this before, but it's like you get options as you keep going forward and you close certain doors and leave certain doors open. Here I have an option. I could put something right here. You know, actually what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put like a spear or something, and it's going to be like going through the whale's head. That's going to look dope. So I'm going to paint that in right now while I'm talking. And then we can get like the red blood like mixing with the blue water. That would be dope. So that's what's happening right now. And we'll keep the lines cobalt blue. Let's keep it with the cobalt blue over here. So yeah, I just like the kind of Aleister Crowley Kabbalah stuff because in my opinion, you'll get the best explication of it in a book called 777 by Aleister Crowley, where in my opinion, that's basically like where he really lays out his whole system, where basically the whole point, there's actually one essay you could read. It's called On the Necessity of the Magical Alphabet, where basically what it's about is that, I mean, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not giving you the exact quote, or like I'm giving you what I took away from it. But it's like, as modern people, we have exposure to like all these systems, and the problem is getting on the same page in terms of like terminology, like, and that we experience that whether or not you're in the occult or not. You know, if you have a friend who's really into a different system than you, let's say maybe he's even a different kind of Christian, but actually that's easier. Let's say he's like not Christian or something. He's into like something else. You know, what do you mean by the soul? What do you mean by the afterlife? What do you mean by the mind? What do you mean by... There's all these like millions of terms that make it almost impossible to really discuss anything. So, and then you have, you know, and then if you're not on the Christian page, if you're on this more like floating amorphous, like, oh, I'm going to comb through like all these traditions page, then you have the issue of like, oh, well, there's all these pantheons, and like clearly there's some... I have to give it to you like from this perspective. I'm not saying I think this, but I have to give it to you. I have to pitch you the system as though, oh, look at that. The blue is nice. The blue is the color of the day. You know, then you have to reconcile that, like, oh, there are some clearly overlaps in these pantheons. Like, well, you know, in northern India, we have Indra, who's this god who lives in the sky and throws thunderbolts, and he's kind of like the king of the gods in some of these stories, and that's kind of like Jupiter, I guess. And then Thor also is kind of this thundery god, and then in this Japanese culture, we have this other thing. So it's like, from that perspective, you can see these sync-ups, and you have to explain why. And basically what he does, and this is how the Kabbalah is used in like most aspects of Western occult that branch off from Aleister Crowley and like post Golden Dawn. Golden Dawn's like an order he was a part of working, where the Tree of Life, if you've done any Kabbalah stuff, you've probably seen the Tree of Life, or even if you just hang around like weird esoterica world, you've probably seen it even if you don't know what it is. It's kind of used as like an Excel spreadsheet to map over concepts onto. So it's like that arrangement of circles and lines and everything. I'm gonna leave this kind of like fat and blue coming out here. We'll see how this turns out. Like I said, I don't really have a plan. It's used as basically like an Excel spreadsheet to like map things over and draw these like correspondences over. And I guess you could say my main problem with how it has a really long walk, but I guess you could say my main problem with how it like manifests in modern people that are into like esoteric stuff is that it basically just becomes this exercise in building these increasingly complex networks of like tautological correspondences that only exist or make sense like within the system you're using. It sounds really complicated, but it's not really. Like you can imagine, like basically it's like, okay, so let's take the tarot cards and we'll map the tarot cards over all these paths on the tree of life in Kabbalah. Oh, cool. And also there's 26 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and there's 26 tarot cards in the major arcana. So now those we're going to map up too. Okay, so cool. Now this card equals this letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Okay, and now we're going to take all these deities from this pantheon and stack them over the Excel spreadsheet. So now these things sync up too, and then the planets are these parts, and you basically build this whole kind of like schizo. I mean, I'm a little schizophrenic, so I'm not really using schizo as like that derogatory, honestly, but that is what it is. You build this kind of like schizo thing where every concept is tethered to all these other concepts, but in my opinion, you're kind of just left holding this matrix of information that, like I said, is tautological. I use that word intentionally because it's like, well, I mean, yeah, does this tarot card really, I mean, I guess it kind of syncs up with this thing and syncs up with this thing and this planet between these two planets. Yeah, I mean, I guess you would get this concept, and it kind of just becomes an exercise in like forcing square pegs into circle holes and generating more information from this system. And I don't know. I mean, that's not really like a full like philosophical refutation of like the whole practice, but I feel like that's ultimately where it leads, is like you just going deeper and deeper and deeper into this labyrinth of kind of forcing all this information to correspond, even if it does or doesn't. And Aleister Crowley even addresses that in the work. He says, doing like gematria and stuff like that. Like you've probably seen people. Where's my fucking pencils? I just put them down somewhere. Oh, they're right here. I'm gonna get some green in here. We're gonna get some like land going on, and then we'll start like digging into more like imagery. You've probably seen people doing like gematria and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, like this word spelled backwards is this word, and that actually is really significant. And did you know that if you take these letters and add them up, you get, I really don't like this green color. We'll lay down just a tiny bit of it, and then we'll try and get a different color on top of it. I mean, I could just not do it, but why not see it? It might look different when we hit it with the water. So you've probably seen people doing stuff like that, or like, oh, did you know, like if you add up the letters in this name, it stacks up to this other thing. And in my opinion, it just becomes, like I said, an exercise in like putting on this like schizo lens. And again, like I'm kind of schizo. I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like sometimes you have to put on that lens and generating information in this way. And I don't know. For that reason, I'm just not really about it. I could go into it more, but I don't want to fully go like off the rails. So this green is very transparent, and it's not really what I'm looking for. I actually don't really like it. So let's lay down a different green. And since we're trying to use some other colors, I feel like we got to keep pushing the envelope. So I'm gonna throw down this olive green. I actually never use this color, but let's see. It's a very like, I don't know why, it makes me think of like locusts and like grasshoppers, and it has this very like sour, like ancient quality to it. Let's throw some of this down. Yeah, it looks a little better. Kind of just leave it like that. That looks good. That looks dope, actually. And I want to get some red kind of blood going on from the whale, like bleeding out. I think that's going to also make this look a lot doper. And for that, we're obviously going to use... Ooh, actually, let's use a dark red. Let's use some different colors that we don't normally use right now. Cool. We'll use this dark red here. Perfect. And yeah, also, I mean, as long as I'm going down this route, I guess maybe we will kind of talk about like esoteric and occult stuff mostly while I'm painting. Oh, I want to lay down some water and then put the red down. So yeah, I mean, I'm really careful to not be one of these guys. Like, I really don't like to be like a caricature where I'm like, oh, guess what? I figured it all out, and everyone's still doing all that stuff is just so dumb. It's more that, a lot of the way it functions is like roping people in by giving them stuff at the outset. And I feel like I like talking about what I just talked about because that is how a lot of people get roped into like certain systems and stuff. Like in the beginning, it is very like intoxicating. That looks really good. That looks like blood and water. That's awesome. Get a little bit of that over there. I actually don't want to work it too much because it looks so perfect. Yeah, fuck yeah, look at that. That's awesome. I'm going to put some blood on the spear. So yeah, in the beginning, it can be like very intoxicating. You're like, oh my God, I just realized, the 4 elements, there's 12 zodiac signs. And there's 3 modes for the zodiac signs, and the zodiac signs are the 4 elements in these 3 modes. That's why there's 12 of them. And oh my God, I just realized that, and you kind of get these like cookies in the beginning, and you're like, wow, this is gonna be so awesome. Like as I go further into this, I'm gonna understand like so much. But I don't know. I think that eventually, honestly, I think it wears off a little bit. And like I said, you're kind of just left standing there holding this weird Excel spreadsheet, and you're just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. So I like to talk about the things that kind of like rope people into it off the bat. I also distinguish between like the occult and esoterica, just to be totally clear. So when I'm talking about like Aleister Crowley, I'm not using that as like a condemnation of like everything that is like esoteric in nature. Okay. I've been talking a lot. This is dope. I want to kind of figure out what direction I'm going in here. What I'm feeling like would be tight is if we get kind of like a hill maybe going on over here, and then we can put like night sky, maybe day and night, like in the margins. There is a kind of composition that I like using sometimes. I think of it as being very Mannerist. Mannerist is the school of art that comes after the Renaissance. It's actually really good for you to know, especially if you're watching this and like want to start brushing up on art stuff. After the Renaissance, there's like the High Renaissance, and it's actually a really interesting moment in like human thought because you got to this point where Michelangelo could sculpt stuff, looked perfect. I mean, other people too, but I'll just use the most classic examples. Michelangelo could sculpt stuff that looked 100% perfect. People like Da Vinci to Raphael could paint stuff that looked 100% perfect. So it's actually pretty interesting to ask yourself, where do you go from there? What happens after that? And there are some artists who keep it going and, improve on making things looking realistic. But the real art movement that happens after the Renaissance is called Mannerism. And that's when people start kind of pushing it in weird ways and making things not look real necessarily. But they're not really sure how to do it, in my opinion. So you get a lot of weird stuff. Like there's an artist I really like named Pontormo. Pontormo's Deposition is a really famous example where all these people are taking down Christ from the cross. But like if you really look at it, some hands like don't line up with bodies. And it's almost in like a little bit like psychedelic colors almost. There's a painter named Parmigianino. Parmigianino has, I think it's a meeting of Mary and St. Anne. But they're like huge and they're kind of like actually I'm confusing 2 paintings right now, but there's a Virgin called the Madonna of the Long Neck, and she's like really elongated. She has like a super long neck. Jesus is like kind of like too long, and there's a pillar in the background on the ground implying that she's like thousands of feet tall. And one of the things they would do in their paintings is have like it's very much like the Deposition. If you pull that painting up right now, not that we're doing that, but it's an indication of it, where there'll be stuff going on around the outside, but the center will be kind of empty. And I really like using that kind of compositional style sometimes, where you leave the center like kind of open and you put stuff like in the borders and in the wings. That's a really tight style to use, so we might do that right now. Cool. Let's keep it going. I'm still balancing looking at the chat and talking to you guys. If I like totally keep up with the chat, then I'm like just talking to you guys, which I would do, honestly. I'm down. That would be tight. But I also want to make sure I keep painting. So let's see how it goes. I'm going to keep going here, though. I'm kind of feeling this color I never use. I never use the olive green. It's kind of like a weird yellow green. So let's just go for it. Let's just kind of bring this down. We'll probably put some like burrowy animal underneath the ground. I've been thinking about those guys too. Oh shit. All right, I'll change my gloves in a second, so I'll take some questions in a second. This brush is too small. We need this guy bigger. Want to make it look nice and flowy. There we go. The viewer can kind of tell if you're using a brush that's like too small. You don't want like 100 little tiny strokes. You want like big, powerful, like confident movements. So that's why I changed it up there. Cool. And yeah, I'll take questions in a second when I change my gloves. I got some paint on my gloves, so I don't want to keep like keep putting that down there. Perfect. And yeah, it's interesting too because I was talking about the Renaissance. We were talking about pico mirandola. Like I've been to Tuscany, and you can actually go to the rooms where I have to be really careful about how I put my hand down here. You can go to the rooms like the Medicis were really into a lot of that stuff. Like there's some room. I feel like it's in Florence, but I don't remember where it was honestly. Where it's all painted up like the 4 elements, and it was this Medici like study room. There was a pope who was a Medici, right? Pretty sure about that. So it's really interesting. It all kind of comes together in Florence in like this really weird way. Okay, perfect. That is tight. And as that dries, it'll look even sicker. All right, I'm going to change my glove. So I'll take questions real quick if you guys want. Not if you guys want. It's going to happen either way. Okay, I'm just going to see what people are saying right now. Is Jung connected with Crowley, Anglo, and Continental? That's interesting, man. They must have known about each other a little bit. I don't know if they full on like hung out or anything though. I feel like I would know if they met up, but I can't say for sure that they didn't. I'm just thinking over what I've read and what I've looked at. I haven't seen one of them directly address the other, but it probably exists somewhere. It's a good question. I don't know. Your Esoteric, a flashlight powered by Christian Understanding battery comic is the perfect take on all of this. Yeah, it totally is. I feel like, I'll never, probably it's not going to happen at this point. I'm never going to stop being like an esotericist. I really hate using that term, but I mean, I'm just into esoteric shit. I'm kind of like I would never be like, hey, just so you know, I'm a mystic. Like, I'm looking like the biggest dick in the world. Like, I really don't think of myself that way, but I'm just into things like that. That's kind of how I would say it. So yeah, it's more just the spirit in which I'm doing it has changed now that I am like God oriented and feel like, good versus evil is like a real thing. Is there a Christian defense of nudity in art? Can it be trad and moral, or is it always degenerate? Why or why not use nudity in art? It's a great question. It's a really good question. We'll poke into that. Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, there's nothing inherently... I don't think there's anything inherently bad about like noticing the beauty of creation and stuff like that. I mean, like I've gone to figure drawing classes and drawn like naked women before. I definitely don't think that is like inherently degenerate for sure. Definitely not. Only if you're like bringing that mindset to it. So yeah, I would say no. I mean, like if you look at a painting of like Adam and Eve and they're naked in the Garden of Eden, like I don't think most people are like getting a hard on from that. Could be wrong, but no. We'll go into that. It's kind of complex. I want to keep the painting situation moving, but we'll talk about that. Maybe I'll paint someone naked. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So we got this going on. It's looking dope. I'm letting this dry up here. What I'm thinking right now is I'm definitely going to get some dark sky in. In fact, I might even lay in the black ink, have it come into indigo, maybe have it come into blue, like for the sky, and then see what I want to do there. I have space to put things over here. It's kind of like at this point, I could either start deciding what the picture is about and start focusing in my target system on like a particular concept that I'm trying to get across, or I could just keep going with letting things happen and kind of just let it be more like free flow. I kind of have to make that call right now. I feel like we're just going to keep going with like letting it happen, honestly. I feel like that really is the move. I could put in 2 strips of land and get 2 things on there. Could put in like a boat or something like that. That would be kind of dope. Haven't really done that yet. I don't know, man. I'm really trying to think what I'm going to do. All right, actually, I just got it. I know what we're going to do right now. I'm going to take some indigo. Indigo is a really great color because it's really, really dark. So it kind of almost functions as black, but then once you get like the black in, it'll change it up. So I'm going to have something obviously coming up off of this hill. It depends on what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm going to do the flying fish. fucking obviously right now. Yes, that's going to be so dope. Oh, that's perfect. And then I'll put the flying fish up here, and then we'll have the light sky coming down into the darkness. This guy's like down in the dark water. All right, that's perfect. The whole picture just made itself. Perfect. So I'm going to throw this in, and I'm going to keep going with the cobalt blue. I'm going to keep going with the blue imagery up here. Maybe we'll get kind of like a fishing thing going into. I am the leader of, not leader, but proud member of Esoteric Fishing Collective. So I really like this image I'm about to drop right here, because wings to me are one of the most like potent, theologically symbolic things. Obviously, it kind of works on like a few levels, because even like a little kid is like, yeah, angels have wings, like boom. But it kind of goes a little bit further than that. I read in this book once, wings are symbolic of a divine mission. Like things that have wings, it's symbolic of the winged thing being on like a divine mission and having like a divine order. Like it's part of this like divine plan, I guess you could say, in a way. And that always kind of stuck with me. I think that's like a really cool idea. So I'm going to throw in these big, almost like medieval. We're keeping it medieval here. I don't even know if I'm going to put in two. I might just put in one. That would be really hot if I could get it to look good with just the one big wing. So we're going to come up here and just come around. There we go. It's a little bit more arched up than I wanted it to be, but it's all good. And I like to come back with the feathers. We're going full like fat medieval woodcut wing, where it's just going to be tapered in, layered with the feathers. Boom. Boom. And then I like to get one last like downward pointing feather at the bottom. In my opinion, that kind of makes it look more like a wing. There you go. That looks pretty good. Maybe we'll fix the top up here. Maybe we won't. We'll see how it goes. And this one, I'm not going to paint in blue in the background. I'm actually thinking of maybe getting some yellow. I feel like yellow is going to kind of balance out the color scheme a little bit. We have the yellow, green, and the red, blue, but I think that just getting some yellow up in here, not really like a halo, maybe kind of like a sun. Let's see how it goes up here. Cool. Perfect. And yeah, someone actually said before, I guess, we kind of always end up going into shit like this. Someone said before in the chat, I'm kind of seeing things both from before and now. You didn't phrase it this way, but I think of it as this way. There's kind of a lot less like cover for like esoterica and things that are kind of like occulty in the Orthodox Church. I really wonder why about how that is. Of course, if you ask some people, they'd say like, oh, the Roman Church is like influenced. it's like infiltrated by, these like dark forces and, hermetics and occult stuff. And, maybe that's true. But on the other side, I think sometimes maybe it's a result of like historical factors. Like, I don't really, but the thing is they had alchemy in Eastern European countries. I guess it just didn't really, They had alchemy in like places that are Orthodox now. It's not like they had like no esoterica or anything like that. That's something else I think about and find like really interesting. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can drop this off over here. Making sure there's no color on this brush because I'm about to try and like get the yellow flowing out over here. Cool. Let's just go for it. Boom. Perfect. And some of the blue from the fish might kick up into the yellow, but I'm cool with it. If I had like planned it out perfectly, I could have put down the yellow first, but it's fine. Cool. And as I'm thinking about all this stuff, like the occult, Christianity, esoterica, people leaving one system for another, I feel like the dark and light imagery in my work gets played up a lot. Obviously that's kind of one of the most natural like artistic themes, but I really have been like working with that like a lot more. It's like the play of like dark and light and how they like work together or don't work together. Let's see, I'm going to get it really wet down here, and then I'm going to drop in the cadmium orange. I think that's going to be awesome. We'll just get it going down here. Perfect. Got the cadmium orange. Also, talking about all this stuff has made me want to dig into some of the more like, like esoterica isn't just shit that dovetails with like occult and like the dark arts and stuff. There's like aliens and all that stuff that I'm also really into. So it's making me kind of want to like branch out back into that a little bit more. I really, when I think about my own like reading and like intellectual development, that looks good. We got to make it bleed out a lot more than that. Make it bleed. Sounds really creepy. When I think about my own like intellectual development and all that stuff, it's kind of like I'll find like a really fecund like patch of soil and really get to like grow like a ton of stuff there, and then eventually I kind of just like peter out and need to like move on and then go back to it. And I feel like I've kind of hit that point with all the stuff I'm reading. Like the next two things I have lined up next to my bed is this huge book of Augustine and a huge book of Thomas Aquinas. I've just been looking at it for so long. That orange a little bit. Here we go. Yeah, we get a little more of like an effect going in there. Cool. And I'm wondering if I should get the black in right now, if I want to start getting that in. Let's see. Maybe I will. Maybe I will just drop the black in. I feel like that's going to like pump this up a little bit. So I'm going to get the black ink. All right. Perfect. So I mention this sometimes, but getting the high contrast areas also bump. Perfect. That looks hot. I'm going to come in straight with the indigo next to this black. I'm going to get it going. Cool. Honestly, I really just want to bring the black like all the way down. I actually might do that. And like, why hold back? Why hold back at this point? Did I break out any indigo yet? I thought I did, but I didn't open it yet. Cool. Damn, it took way too much out. It's cool. All right, now we're gonna throw down some indigo. Doesn't really matter if we get the black and the indigo. I just want it to like kick up a little bit. Let's see, I want to get a lot of paint on there. Shit, that's fine. Cool. Black and blue, classic. Perfect. Okay, let's get this going. We could talk all day, but let's get some imagery going here. Nice. Alright, this is gonna look dope when it dries. And I'm kind of locking myself into a bit of a situation here because now I'll have to paint over the paint on the bottom, but it's the only way to get like hyper loose colors. If I like paint something like, let's say I painted in a key and then I have to go in and like finagle around like every inch of the key, it's give and take. So we'll see how that goes. Like I said, we're here to like do things we haven't done before, so I'll just kind of just try it out. Cool. Perfect. It's funny because working with art for so long, I really love every color. Every color has its own like character and quality, and working with it is just so awesome. I really don't think that's ever going to get old. I really understand why people do like abstract painting and stuff, even if I don't like it. Just like tripping out on every color and how dope it is like so possible. Okay, let's bring it in here. Cool. And the hill kind of got sucked out over there on the left, but I'm just gonna roll with it. I actually think it looks kind of dope. And now we kind of gotta decide. Man, that looks sick. I kind of want to dry it up, but I also feel like I should just roll with it. Every time I've done this, as I have gotten more loose with it, the pictures have gotten better. So let's just kind of like go with it and see what happens. It's more interesting that way. So we'll get some green in over here. Come back in with the water. Yeah, this looks dope now. And I'm going to dry up a little bit of that green. Yeah, maybe there is a good amount of glare. I could move. Let's see. Well, as it dries, the glare goes away. But yeah, actually, I see that would be annoying for you guys. Let me see if I move this light. I guess that's a little better. Maybe I'll bring this light down. I have this like complex network of like lights going on. Yeah, I guess that looks better. Let's see. I'll keep my eye on the glare. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Okay. And let's see. I got to figure out like what I'm trying to get going on over here on the sides. I locked myself in to all this dark stuff. I'm going to paint this fish in up top while I wait on the spots at the top to dry. Here I got two options. I could paint in the fish up here blue, and then it's like I'm bringing the blue from the bottom up to the top. But I'm kind of worried that I'm going to start getting in this state where like everything is just blue, and that's not that visually interesting. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. I think I might paint it in orange. I've been feeling using the not blue fish recently. So let's just go for it. I'm just going to paint him in orange. Oh, fuck. That's fine. And I don't know, maybe we'll go full like water creature style. I'm not really sure. Let's see how it goes. Cool. Yeah, that looks dope. I'm honestly tempted to get some of that orange down in the bottom too. Keep all the colors like moving around, but I don't know if I should. Someone said coral before, and actually I'm feeling like that would be dope. Hold on, I gotta change my glove again. Got some paint on it. So yeah, I'm feeling how this is going, but I really want to. It's like, it's like if we're driving to a city, like we're like halfway there, but I kind of want to like put the gas on and get us like really going there now. How long are we in right now? I always check and it's been like an hour. It's been an hour at 12. All right, yeah, so it's time to put the gas on and get it going. Okay, so I'm gonna start drying up this stuff over here. Maybe get a little bit of texture. Trying to work with the texture. Maybe I'll take it too hard, but we'll see. And I really want to get something over here on the sides. What I'm really thinking is that I could do this thing where if I put in like, I'm about to do the same thing again, where if I put like half a skull in this way and half a skull in this way, that would be really awesome. And now that I thought about it, I feel like I got to do it. I was thinking about the skull thing before. Do I want to put it in white? Do I want to put it in orange? Let's take a safe bet. I don't want it to start getting too muddy, so I'm going to throw it in white. Maybe we'll get like a kind of water Bible symbolism going on over here. Maybe that's kind of what we'll end up going for. Water plus the Bible in terms of symbolism is really interesting because you have like Noah's flood, Jonah getting eaten by the whale, water is death kind of thing going on. But then you also have living through the water, baptism in water. So you get a kind of nice back and forth going on there. And that's something I do like to explore in my images. Get like an Old Testament, New Testament thing going on. And really quick, I'm just going to reconfigure the situation over here. You also get, let's see, can I move this? Can I do this? Maybe this will help the glare. Maybe it'll make it worse. Let's see. I'm going to move some stuff around. I'm going to move the camera just a little bit. Am I moving the camera? Hold up. Okay, we're almost there. Cool. Let's see. I want to get the glare out of here. Now that someone mentioned the glare, I can like really see it. So, okay, that looks good to me for now. I'll work on the glare thing. I'll work on it progressively. That looks pretty good. Well, symbolism of water, and I'm just gonna go for it with the skull thing. We need to get this going. You guys have been here for a while. Let's get this popping right now. In the I Ching, one of the older sort of like esoterica things, one of the older books, if you want to call it a book, because you get in there's two symbols for water. You have water, and there the water symbol is like danger. It's like danger. Like water's like a danger symbol in the I Ching. But then you also have lake, and then lake is like a joyful symbol of like prosperity and happiness. So I always correlated in that some way to like the dual symbolism of water that you find in the Bible. Both water as like death and like annihilation, and then water also as like baptism. Here we go. Now we're fucking talking right now. Cool. And I think I'm just going to paint in the white. I don't know. I'm worried about it getting messy, but if I'm worried about it, then I mean, I'm just going to play by the rules, and then it's definitely not going to look good. So I feel like we should just go for it. Man, it looks kind of hot. Looks kind of dope. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just put in the eyes. I'll just put in the eyes right here. Let's see how that goes. I'm getting it kind of like loose paint. Let's put in the eyes. Perfect. Okay, nice. Nice. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. And actually, instead of painting in the skull white, I'm going to paint in around the skull. Maybe I'll regret that decision. Maybe I won't. Be like a well. So we'll see how that goes. I'm kind of feeling how like chaotic this is, though. Okay. Maybe the guy needs a halo. Something is like almost there, but it's not exactly happening for me yet. I think the guy maybe needs a halo. Let's give him a halo. Maybe we'll kind of lean into like one of those like miniature medieval paintings where things kind of just like look a little weird. Maybe we're kind of just gonna go for that angle. I'm gonna throw in the cadmium yellow. Let's just go for it. Cool. Boom. Okay, I'm going to mix the yellow in with a little bit of white. I want to make sure it's not transparent, just because there's a lot of like transparency and overlays and stuff going on. And if I throw down the halo for this guy, I want it to be not see-through at all. There's a little green that's wet here. Yeah, I should wait, but I'm not going to. And we'll get it big enough so that his hand will cut it off. I could have used a smaller brush, but I didn't. Perfect. Maybe we'll put in some grass on the hill. Perfect. Nice. And just one stroke. Perfect. Just to get that green out of there. Okay. Okay, I'm down with that. Now we're kind of getting somewhere. If your picture ever is like too messy, too kind of like unclear, you want to give it like a high contrast like focal point. That's what I'm doing with this guy. I'm giving it like a spot where your eye can look and be like, oh, okay, there, that's the important spot. So that's why I got that there. In fact, to drive that up a little bit, I'm going to even like darken around the halo, just to make it totally clear that like that's the most high contrast kind of important spot. And we'll kind of go into full on like paint sketching mode right now, just to keep it interesting, keep it driven up right there. I'm really loving how the skulls kind of like faded out into the darkness over here. Problem right now is that this is also like kind of the most high contrast area, but I'm actually feeling it a little bit. We're going to give the fish a really big red eye right now. Could do orange, maybe. We're going to go with red. Cool. Let's see, I'm going to go in here. Just give like a huge, kind of like monster-y eye. In medieval art, a lot of time the monsters are just like kind of tripped out versions of normal animals. I really like that a lot. Like you'll be reading about some like monster from the sea, like the Leviathan or something, but then the image will just be like a really big fish. And I really like that a lot. Okay. Now this looks dope. Yeah, I'm kind of just, you can probably hear like, I don't want to say hesitancy, you can hear the thinking in my voice. I just want to make sure I make the right call here, because I kind of, I'll be honest with you guys, I boxed myself into a corner a little bit, because Really, I guess something should be here, right here. I like that it's empty, but I got to get something there. I'm going to come back in and kind of clean up the sun and clouds and stuff like that. I mean, I could have a guy right here, kind of like maybe waiting to be like baptized. Oh, that's what we're going to do. I know what we're going to do right now, actually. I'm going to throw down a little bit of a lake. That's perfect. All right, here we go. This is perfect because then we have like the drowny deep waters like of the subconscious or like of chaos or like, the darker kind of symbolism of annihilation-y water down at the bottom. And then we'll have like the redemptive water up here in this lake. It'll be like contained. And I'll make it a little bit more contained looking. It's perfect. And there'll be a guy getting baptized here in the water. Come back around. Give it the lake kind of like a nice shape. I'm going to leave room for the guy. And what I'll do, the reason why I had that reaction about it being perfect is the guy's pose that's getting baptized will mirror the guy's pose over here who's getting eaten. So there'll be like a correspondence between those like two figures. Here. I don't know, maybe I should have been more confident and left it, but I didn't like the way that bump looked. I'm kind of trying to give the lake a little bit of... And then I'll probably put some rain in the background also. We'll kind of just pump all the different like water symbolism. Rain is a good one to use in images because it is in and of itself ambiguous, because rain is, in some cultures, it's like depressing, like, oh, it's raining, like that's sad. But actually rain is like life-giving also in and of itself. So it's kind of like a nice like ambiguous symbol to use, like especially if you use it in like a certain way. It's not really clear if it's like what I would call like bad rain or good rain. It's also interesting because, we're going to throw some stars in the sky for sure. It's also interesting because if you look at the way different cultures use rain, cultures that always have enough rain, then rain is depressing for them. If you look at like England, for example, when they use rain in their poetry and rain in their symbolism, it's like a sad thing. But if you look at cultures in Africa where sometimes there's not enough rain, rain is like a very powerful, positive symbol because it's like, oh, rain, nice, love it. So that's always an interesting thing that I think about. Personally, I think that's also why in China you have water being like such a dangerous symbol. Some rivers there like flood a lot. In Egypt, I'm sure water had the same like, is it good, is it bad connotation. Whereas other cultures, takes on a totally different meaning. All right, so we're going to throw in this figure right now. We're going to throw down this guy. Perfect. I was actually reading the part of the Bible recently where, make sure I don't cut my hand in some paint, where Jesus gets baptized. I mentioned before, I think the part of the Bible I've probably read the most is the Gospel of Matthew. Maybe because it's the first book in the New Testament, I kind of feel like it has like special significance that it got put first. I mean, could that really be arbitrary? Definitely not, right? Boom. All right. I'm going to put this guy's hands up also. He's going to be like being reborn like in the water. We'll give him a halo too. Put his arms up like this. Should have put it more like 90 degrees, but it's okay. Speaking of being naked in art, we won't leave our guy naked over here. We'll do something about his clothes. We'll at least pencil in like some lines that make it look like he is wearing clothes. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Throw his face down, and we'll have his face at the same angle as the guy who's getting eaten. That's actually a really awesome correspondence. So yeah, I always call this like painting sketching. In case this is your first time watching this, I'm not like making a painting that'll like end up hanging in a museum or something like that, but I like doing the painting sketching thing because then you get ideas and you can see like I'm definitely going to use that in an image later. Or having the correspondence between the guy getting eaten and the guy getting baptized. It's actually a really dope symbolic interplay, if I had to describe it. I'm going to give him a halo too. Give him a halo, we'll let it dry, then we'll come back and paint in his clothes and stuff like that. Okay. Kind of glancing at the chat back and forth a little bit, but I want to make sure I stay focused on making this happen. Cool. Perfect.
Kind of risky putting the yellow next to the white. They might bleed together, but whatever. Just going to go for it. Perfect. Perfect. The light. The light. There we go. When I throw down some grass on this hill, it'll give it way more of like a medieval flavor also. Come back in with some lines. We'll kind of tighten that guy up in a minute. I'm going to tighten the hill up. It's looking a little messy right now, just going to be totally honest. So I need the sap green. So we're going to start focusing it in right now. Just going to start focusing it in. Now that we know what we're going for, I'm just going to throw down thick green. I thought this would be hot with the black coming in the hill, but I feel like it's like clouding the visual space a lot and making things like very unclear. So I'm going to come back in. I want to like tighten this up a little bit. I want to make sure, like I said, I'm cool. I'm cool however it turns out. I'm cool with, things being sketchy, things being not, but so far each one has been doper than the last, and I want to keep my streak going. So I'm just going to come in. I'm just going to throw down the green. I'm just going to throw down the sap green. There's still some black up there, but I think it's okay. Oh, yo, you know what I could do? Okay, whoever asked about the glare, I know what to do next time. If I just angle the page slightly, then there'll be no glare because it won't be the same angle coming back into the camera. Oh, shit. That's huge. All right, let's see. I'll figure that out as I go. So I'm going to come in over here. Also, if you're working really loose with watercolor, you sometimes will notice that you just have a spot with way too much water. This has been wet like the whole time. What's it been, like 45 minutes? So I'm actually just going to dry this. Just going to dry this so I can paint over it. Because if I wait for that to dry, I will be here for like 3 hours. All right, we're coming in. Boom, boom. Cool. Have you read any of the books that didn't get put in the Bible? Dude, yes. Great question. Yeah, I have. They range. You gotta be, I don't want to say you gotta be careful with that stuff. You do have to be kind of careful with it. But my opinion on all that stuff has totally changed a lot. Like, I think when people first come in to, I don't really know what to call it. I want to call it the Apocrypha. It's actually not the Apocrypha, though. The Apocrypha is totally different than books that like didn't make it in. Hold up. Okay, I want to make sure I do the right thing here. I'm going to start addressing this fish up here, and then I think in terms of finishing it, I'll just work my way down. At first, I want you to read. You could look at it that way, but after a while, I think that for the most part, those books aren't in the Bible because the church fathers or whoever was in charge at the time basically determined that like they were not legitimate, they were not real. Kind of puts a different bit of a spin on it. Doesn't mean they're not worth reading. There are definitely some that are not worth reading. There's probably like 100 to 200 like Gnostic gospels that, in my opinion, are just like straight up like fan fiction for the Bible, basically. It's not even that I wouldn't be open to that, like, as a document. Like, theoretically, if someone was like, hey, this is this book from 200 AD, and, like, it said that it was... Just being honest. But there are some that are really in development. I'm just a painter. Right now, I'm getting all the green off my brush. That's why I'm, like, talking while I'm doing this paper towel thing. So just to be clear, I'm not a spiritual authority. I'm just a weird guy who likes mystical stuff in painting. So, obviously, that's the case, but just throwing it out there. I'm going to flip the palette around. So just because something is not in the Bible does not necessarily mean that it's like totally garbage then, right? It just means that it's not part of the Bible. Of course, if a book says, there's like a gospel of like Mary Magdalene that says that Mary Magdalene wrote it, that's not real. Like, if it says it's by someone that didn't really write it, then grab the wrong color. Oh, this is the right color. Then that's kind of lame. I think that book actually exists, by the way. But the Book of Enoch is an interesting one because, as far as I know, it's not like the church. Well, sorry, I should clarify. In one, I think one Orthodox church, it's an Orthodox church that's one. I'm not going to go into like the hardcore specifics that I only understand like 70 to 80%, but it's one of the Oriental Orthodox churches. So it's one of the ones that I believe is not fully in communion with the other Orthodox churches. I think they're called like the non-Chalcedonian churches. I think this church like rejects the Council of Chalcedon. If that's not how you say it, by the way, I don't care. I don't talk to anyone about this stuff in real life. I just read about it on my own for the last like X number of years. So yeah, it's the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and for them, the Book of Enoch is canonical. It's just an interesting note. Doesn't mean that it is or is not, but it's just an interesting note. And as far as I know, even within like the Catholic system, it's not like they would say like, oh, the Book of Enoch, like throw it away. It's just not in the Bible. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's referenced in the Bible. And by pretty sure, I mean I'm almost 100% sure that the Book of Enoch is referenced in the Bible. But I haven't looked into it in a while. Anyway, though, yeah, the Book of Enoch's really, really cool. I don't think of it as like something that's like 100% like authoritative, but it is really cool to check out. Who's Enoch? He's like Noah's like great grandfather, right? I'm pretty sure that's who Enoch is. Don't quote me on that one. And that's a really cool one. Maybe we'll talk about that more later. It talks about the Nephilim and like the Watchers and all that stuff. I like how that pattern came out on that fish. Talks about like the Nephilim and like the Watchers and all that stuff. They basically like it's one of the best like esoterica things to check out. Basically like the Watchers, like the low ranking I guess I'll call them low ranking angels. It's like kind of what they are, like the Nephilim. They come to, well, they're not really the Nephilim, but anyway, the low ranking angels kind of like think Earth girls are hot, basically. I'm like oversimplifying and kind of joking, but that is basically what it is. And like come down to Earth and like bang a bunch of like Earth women and sow this race of like human giant hybrids, angel kind of things. And it's pretty interesting to check out. They give man a bunch of arts like metalworking and all this stuff. So that's a pretty interesting one to check out. One that I do really like, although it obviously is not in the Bible, is the Gospel of Thomas. I think that book's really cool. A lot of the best quotes in it are just quotes that it probably cribbed from the actual Gospels. Of course, like I said, I don't view it as like an actual canonical gospel or anything, but I think that book holds like a special place in my heart because when I was, maybe like 18, 19 or so, I turned to religious texts instinctually. I had like no religious background at all, but I was really depressed. And something in my brain clicked with being like, oh yeah, old books, like religious stuff. Like I should check that out, I guess, right? And I started reading all these old books, like the Tao Te Ching and all that stuff. And at that time, I never would have thought of Christianity. But because of that sexy allure of like, whoa, guess what? Like this is a forbidden book about Jesus. Like not one of the ones the church wants you to read. I read it. I never would have read like the Bible at that time. That was just who I was at the time. And I really liked it a lot. It always stuck with me. And I really, really liked it a lot. Sometimes if I get people who message me and they're like, you kind of got to meet people where they're at a little bit, in my opinion. You got to kind of meet them where they're at a little bit. So sometimes people message me and they're like, oh, and like I want to check out, some religious text stuff, some spiritual stuff. But like, honestly, man, I'm just not really feeling the Christian thing. I'm not going to read the Bible. Like, is there other stuff you recommend? Sometimes I'll recommend them the Gospel of Thomas with that like addendum I just said where I'm like, hey, just so you know, this isn't really like part of the Bible and all that stuff. But I think because it has that sexy allure, sometimes they will check it out. And sometimes I do that because I hope it'll plant the seed for them to be like, oh, wow, there is this like other dimension of Christianity and stuff that I hadn't thought about. But yeah, so as to your question, the two that would be noteworthy for me would be the Gospel of Thomas and the Book of Enoch. Other than that, I mostly just found them to be lame, to be honest with you. And that was even before I became Christian, so it's really not like my bias of being like, oh, this is bad for preconceived notions. Preconceived reasons. Most of them, I just didn't really find them really cool at all. Like even before I was Christian, like there's a gospel of like the Magi, like the three Magi that came to see Jesus. There's a book that like purports to be written by them. And I was kind of just like, yeah, no, though, not really, right? It's obviously not. So yeah, put some ripples in here. That's good. I'm going to come in and do this guy's face. The phthalo blue line that I use there, it's way too dark, so I'm going to come in with the blue. Good question. Whoever asked that question, that was a great question. Cool. All right, so I'm going to line up this stuff right here. Cool. All right. Perfect. Coming in with the chin here. Trying to think of other things I've read that are like on that weird line where like they're kind of Christian but not really. But those are the only two that are really standing out right now. Look, we'll even make it the same guy. We'll put in like the hair and the eyes and everything. There we go. Perfect. Put in the nose. Cool. Oh, and the clothes. I forgot about the clothes. Although, do you wear clothes when you get baptized usually? I don't know. We'll throw them in anyway. I think you usually wear robes. All right. And we're coming in. Boom. Look at our reborn friend over here. Boom. Okay. All right. We're going to start closing in. Where are we right now? Hour 38. I'm kind of trying to keep these under 2 hours. So let's see. I'll keep an eye if people want to ask me questions and stuff. But I also want to start, we came this far, so I want to make sure I get this like as dope as possible, like staying focused a little bit over there. So I'm going to start throwing in some stuff to get it going. So we have this thing where there's this like slain monster eating this guy. There's the guy getting baptized. We're pumping like the different aspects of like water symbolism in general. I'm thinking, oh, what would be dope? I just had a good idea. I'm going to get a little gray in here. I'm going to get a little gray in the sky. I'm thinking about different aspects of water symbolism, but at this point, honestly, I kind of just want to, it's like right now I want to like seal the deal. What's that quote? There's some quote probably by like Confucius or something where it's like, in a journey of 100 miles, 90 is but halfway. That's kind of how I feel with the pictures. It's like we've set up, I'm going to put in, throw some fog down too. Like you can't see, the darkness, you can't see, it kind of goes together. But also just because I think getting some gray up in here will be tight. Some gray going on. Definitely use that for something soon. Fresher. What I'm thinking is, so what I'm thinking is we have this very like stark white going on with the skulls, and if I want to, I guess you could say like draw attention away from it, I kind of have to, I could put something really really light in the darkness over here. Could put two moons. Sometimes what I like to do if I have two open spaces is I could put an alpha and an omega in the sky. That sounds pretty dope, doesn't it? I think we should just do that. Let's just do it. Gotta get all the gray off this brush first. Give him purple robes. Yeah, I don't know if I want to introduce purple at this stage. I guess I could. Honestly, it would be kind of dope. Let's see. I'm just going to go for it with these last like 20 minutes. Let's just see what happens. Okay. I need white. Where's white? It's right here. Cool. And yeah, I don't know about you guys. I've been having insane. I should pursue the gift of tongues. I actually have a book here on Pentecostalism, but I haven't read it yet. Man, it's so funny you mentioned a frog in the sky, because yesterday I drew this really intense sketch that was revolving around a frog with wings floating in the sky. I'm not going to show it on stream right now, but okay, do I want to put letters in now? Partially I don't. What else can I get going on? I have this list. I actually literally have a giant list next to my desk over here of stuff. It's just a big list of symbols, and I'm kind of trying to feel out what I should do. Actually, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm going to drop in. Feels good, man. Yeah, I could put a frog in. Okay, I'm wrestling with a few options right here. I kind of want to put in a candle. We did that last week, but the thing is, I think it'll look so dope that I'm just going to do it. We're making kind of like a series, like a bunch of these will like go together eventually. So I'm going to add in this red candle. Ooh, it's really loose, the paint. I love using the candle. It's symbolic of like man's light. It's like a light that's like insufficient, especially when it's contrasted with like the sun. You know, it like can kind of get the job done, but not really. It's temporal. It implies temporality. It's rooted in time. The candle burns out eventually. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to throw down a little bit of the flame over here. We'll make the flame the same color. Cool. That's perfect. Nice. And I'm going to do kind of a dim, I'm going to try and get it dim light around the candle. I just want it to be like it's giving off like a little bit of light, but it's like not enough. Perfect. And to make it a little bit dimmer, I'm going to... Yeah, scallop shell would be dope. I always think of that as a symbol of like pilgrimage. I mean, of course, what you're saying is true. It also is a symbol of baptism. I think of it as a symbol of pilgrimage more because I've seen it in... That looks good. Because I've seen it in so many pilgrimy things and things like that. And I'm gonna throw down the moon on the other side. It's night. We're stuck in the darkness of ignorance. No, we don't want to be. Sometimes the vibe that I go for, I should have been thinking about this since the beginning, but sometimes the vibe that I go for, what I'm really feeling with this painting right now, there's this Greek word. I'm pretty sure some theologians made it up. They made up this word, I'm pretty sure, to describe their state, to describe like how they felt about like their lives. And it's this word called charmalipi. And charmalipi means, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It could be carmalipi because it's Greek. But I've been saying it charmalipi for multiple years, so if I have to change it, I have to change it. But what it means is it's a state where you're simultaneously extremely happy because God exists and you're part of like God's world and God's kingdom, but it's also an intense sorrow because you're isolated from God and you're so far from Him. And I learned that word and I was like, wow, that's the vibe. Perpetual mood, charmalipi. And sometimes I feel like that's a little bit of the vibe I'm going for with my art. It's a state of like happy sadness where you're like I just said, like, yeah, God exists, like that's really tight. Also though, you're like, yeah, but I'm like stuck in like fallen world. That sucks. You know the feeling. All right, I'm gonna add some more ripples in here. We're gonna start closing it in. Add some light ripples in here. Okay, cool. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go back and add some stuff to the fish's eye. What color am I going to add it in? Yeah, I'll add it in indigo. Cool. So I'm going to add this. Boom. The darkness in the fish eye. Birds outside. That's dope. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just floating here, and it's kind of like I'm waiting for like the last detail that's gonna like put it all together. But I'm not really getting it. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna pluck away. I'll pluck away for like 10 more minutes, and then if that magical thing doesn't surface, it doesn't surface. Maybe it's just a little tweaking. Maybe I just have to go in and like tweak a few things, like adding in the dark eye. That actually looks pretty dope. We'll add in like a hair color for this guy. I'll break out the ochre paint right now. Where's the yellow ochre? Perfect. I think next time, I'm not going to do it right now because it would be a little too random right now, but next time I'll break out the gold paint also. I think it's about time. Look at some of the gold paint. And then you guys can really complain about the glare. Let's throw this down over here. God, It's almost making it worse with the turning. Yeah, we'll rock it like that for a second. So I'm going to throw in the ochre over here. Cool. And yeah, I've been kind of in an interesting state working because I mentioned this on Patreon the other day, but I feel like I plant the seeds and then I harvest them like weeks later or, a week or two later. So right now the stage that I'm in is I just planted all these seeds of like Mary imagery and they finally like came up. So I have all this actually on this bulletin board right behind me. It's like 3 feet behind me. It's like covered with like Mary symbolism and Mary imagery. I made something really tight yesterday and the day before and a few days ago. So I'm kind of looking forward to see what the next thing I want to tackle is. I kind of want to get in some like dark imagery. It's a little uncharacteristic for me, but it's kind of why I want to do it. I've been doing these 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse images for this woman, and I'm kind of feeling the dark imagery thing, and I think that's where I'm going to go next. I'm really feeling like oh wait, hold on. I'm kind of having a good idea. We're going to get some kind of like some kind of thing up here, some kind of like thing reaching up. I honestly want to put a mushroom there. Let's just do it. No one has the monopoly on the mushroom symbol, so I'm going to use it right now. I know mushrooms have the symbolism of like, oh, mushrooms, man. But I do like using them. I like to not give things over to that vibe so easily. And sometimes I like using them as like a symbol of, mushroom starts growing in like this dirty, like disgusting place, but then it like reaches up like towards the heavens. So I'm going to drop a little mushroom in here. I like it. I identify with the mushroom. It starts growing in really like disgusting places, and I lived in New York City for like 10 years, so we have a kinship. It's kind of a joke, but not really, actually. Let's see, did I make the right call putting the light down? Maybe. It's pretty light. It might be too light. Yeah, we'll outline that. I'm going to outline that for sure. It's too light, although it does look kind of cool. Would I say this pic even has a focal point? Not really. It's a really good question, actually. What I'm going for, it's perfect you asked me that. No. So what I'm going for right now, so I'm closing in, right? I'm closing in on like wrapping this up. What I realized is that no, it actually doesn't, which is fine. That's not good or bad. But now I'm trying to lean in the opposite direction. So instead of having like one clear focal point, I have seen that that's not going to happen. And I'm trying to push in the other direction of making it kind of like every square inch has like something going on and like an equal level of importance. That's actually pretty common with medieval stuff. Like if you look at like a medieval tapestry even, sometimes it's like there's not one, actually usually it's the case. There's not like one clear place that your eye is drawn to. It's more like every square inch of the picture has like an equal level of importance. So you asked me that at the perfect time. No, and that's kind of why I'm digging in right now the way I am. I'm just going to like kind of like pick away at all the little parts of the picture, and then we'll see where we're at, and then we'll probably just wrap it up. I'm going to throw down some grass on this hill right now. Kind of going to get that little... I could paint them in as like full-on like little plants, but I don't want to get that like precious with it right now, so I'm just going to paint in. And then I'll come back and add dark grass too. Yeah, this is going to be dope. New York is like the New Age Babylon, someone said. Yeah, literally, dude. It literally is Babylon. Alright, so we're adding in the grass here. And if you were watching since the beginning, I was talking about not being able to find my Viridian paint. And if I didn't find it, I'd be pissed right now because that's the exact color I need is Viridian. I need that dark green. But don't worry, I found it. So we're going to add the dark grass in too. Yeah, LA. I think of LA and New York as like two opposites. LA is kind of like, I mean, jokingly, but not really. I call LA sex Mecca Babylon and New York is death Mecca Babylon. LA is like the Babylon, but it's mostly centered around like sex, in my opinion. And then New York is more of like the death worshipping. There's like a sex cult and a death cult. LA is like the sex cult. New York's like the death cult. And then fittingly, they're opposite cities on opposite coasts, because you can read life like a book. That's why it's important to study symbolism, so you can read life like a book. All right, cool. Someone asked about composition. Do I ever have work where I make the eye follow a certain path intentionally? Yeah, for sure. It's I wouldn't say it's like following a certain path intentionally. Oh, this is perfect with the dark. It's more like how I want the eye to kind of like react to the image, if that makes sense. Like this image I just did of Virgin Mary. It's kind of like a tapestry. It's kind of like a mandala where your eye looks at it and it's just like poof, and it's all these little tiny details, and your eye kind of reacts in this way. Like if you look at like a really big flower, like a really detailed flower, it kind of just instantly presents itself as this thing where all the little details are cohesively organized into a big whole, if that makes sense. That green I put down initially, I thought that sucked, but it's actually really coming through nicely there. So yeah, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes I'm gonna pick up this orange paint over here. Sometimes there's a little bit more of like a layout, you could say, where like if I draw a picture like of a woman, you know, holding something, like clearly it's like, boom, your eye's gonna go to her face, and then it's gonna go to her thing she's holding, and then it's gonna come down the dress and stuff like that. So yeah, it's usually not like a path. There are certain like compositional layouts. Like there's something called a Z pattern. Your eye, if your eye looks at something, actually, if you've never heard this before, you can notice it about yourself and it'll trip you out like for the rest of your life while you look at stuff. Your eye tends to look at things in a Z pattern. It starts at the top left, goes to the top right, then it goes to the bottom left, then it goes to the bottom right. Maybe you could deduce this, but that's because how you read. You know, you read things like that, so your eye reads an image that way. And you can feel it when you're laying out an image, actually. You can feel if you put something in the bottom right, it's like, oh, that's at the end. Or if you have a diagonal going in the Z way, it kind of like your eye naturally goes that way. There's also something called a struggle diagonal that you can use when making images, which is when it goes this way. It goes the opposite way because it struggles against like the natural pattern of your eye. It's also something to consider when you're looking at Asian art and Asian images. Something a lot of people never think about is that I actually don't know how you read Japanese. I'm pretty sure it's top down. I know it, right? It's top down usually. I don't know. I'm actually not totally sure on reading the Asian languages, but let's say you're working in a language where you read top down like this, like first line, second line. Their images are going to be read in that way, just naturally, subconsciously, because of how they're like conditioned. Or if you're reading a language where it reads from right to left, then when you're looking at paintings or images from that culture, that's something you should keep in mind. That the people that are looking at it in its like natural environment are going to be thinking of it that way and viewing it like in that way. Okay, I'm going to add some rays up here. Let's get the rays going on. Boom, boom. I pretty much always use these two sets of rays in my work where it's the straight lines and then I like to come back in and hit with these getting gradually thicker wavy lines. I picked this up because in some like alchemical images, this is symbolic, aside from looking really dope in my opinion, it's symbolic of both the light and heat that the sun gives off. The straight lines are the light and then the curvy rays are the heat. So it like references like both aspects of solarity. Is that a word? I'm at the point now where like I've read enough books and I'm kind of just like, I don't really care about sounding educated because I studied painting, so whatever, and I'll just kind of make up words if I need to. The two aspects of solarity. Boom. 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 Yeah, that looks dope. All right, we're getting there. We've landed on a safe pedestal now. Now we're like, okay, the picture's not going to turn out like bad. We're in like a safe location now. There's always like 20 or 30 minutes on the stream where I'm like, okay, it's going to be the first one that really just does not turn out well at all. But I think we've cleared cleared that landing, and now we're just kind of coming in for the final seconds. And really it just depends on what I want to get going down here in like the bottom. I don't know. I'm being totally honest with you guys. I don't need to like, gas myself up and be like, oh man, like this is the best thing ever. I'm just feeling like I'm missing like a little something. I'm missing like, it's just almost right there, but it's not really coming through. And I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm cool like letting it go, I guess, to a certain extent, but I just feel like we've come so far and I want that feeling of dopeness. I'm having a very like dangerous thought. My dangerous thought is that I'm feeling like if I kicked up some like sour magenta, like some deep like magenta color down here, that it could be really dope. It's kind of a risky maneuver because if it looks whack, we're all going to be sitting here watching it and then we're going to be like, that was not a good call. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right now. I'm just going to kick up this color. I've been playing it pretty safe. Let's just do it. And hey, if it looks whack, then it looks whack, and we all had a learning experience. But I don't think it will. I feel like we just need to kick up the color a little bit. Look at that color. It's scary. Are you scared right now? I'm a little scared. But it's okay. It's okay to be scared. All right, let's do it. I shouldn't have put it there, but it's okay. Make sure. Ooh. And I'm actually going to switch the water. The water I'm using is kind of getting like gray and nasty. All right, we're closing in on 9 o'clock anyway. I like to not make this over 2 hours, so let's see. We're going to do it. We're going to do it right now. We're coming in. I'm just going to pick this up. I just want to pick this up. Just going to pick this up. There we go. And let's see. I just feel like we need like something with the color, and maybe I'll regret this, but I don't think I will. We are just going to come on in. Start a little slow. I also want to get it like spilling out at the bottom. Maybe a little bit more than that. I feel like we haven't done anything dangerous this whole time, and I feel like we should. Yeah, that looks really good. That looks really good. How much do I want to come up into the white? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go nuts right over here and just get it all over the white. Perfect. And I'm going to dry that off. But I'm just going to... I feel like the skulls are taking up like too much visual room. So let's see. I just want to get that going on in there. Get this coming up in here. I'm going to come back and dry it off. I mean, that looks dope, actually. Kind of was thinking about coming back to like dry this up, but yeah, it actually looks pretty sick. I actually kind of want to bring up that energy a little bit more. I thought I was going to tone it down, but I actually kind of want to bring it up a little bit more. Yeah, now we're talking. Now we're fucking talking. Yes. See, you can always tell when it needs a little something. And I'm going to get a little bit of the purple, just like a hint of it up here, just like a tiny bit. Yeah, that was perfect, actually. And we'll come down like this, too. Come down like that, too. There we go. And I'm going to see how much I can take that off. Perfect. Yeah, you could tell it's kind of missing something, and we definitely took it there. The skulls were just like, there we go. Oh, yeah, the drippy skull coming down. Oh, just a good time. The whole point of the show is pressuring people into painting and to doing creative stuff, and I'm telling you, there's like nothing more satisfying than just going for a call like that and making it happen. Cool. Yeah, the purple and the blue. Oh, yes. Wow, was that literally the call of the fucking century right now? Can you handle it? Oh, yes. Wow, such a good call. Such a good call. I'm really, really enjoying that just happened right now. The Owen classic is to say you don't want to do something, then go 110% ham on that exact feeling. Guilty. Yes, I do that. Yeah, the purple is just looking so fresh. Okay. That was dope. I don't want to go too hard. But I kind of feel like I need a little bit in here. But I can't use the same... maybe with the gray. Maybe with the gray. A little bit of the gray in here. Because I just need to make it like a tiny bit opaque. I told this you guys can see. There we go. And I'm going to dry this off so it isn't like 110%. But I really feel like the hazy purple, I call this like icy purple, is really the move. I'm just trying to tilt it a little bit so you guys can see, honestly. I'll figure out the reflection thing next time. I'll kind of like play with it a little bit. And what I'm going to do here, you can see it's a little like chunky straight up. I'm going to come back in with some water. And then I'm going to dry it off. I'm going to dry it off. I feel really good about that though. Don't want it to be like too much. Kind of weighted too much over there. There we go. Get a little bit of that coming in. Maybe that was the move. Maybe we should just keep the purple going in. Yeah, it's nice and wet now. You can get a little hazy coming in, a little bit of the orange coming out. I'm digging up the black over here. Man! That was dope! I am extremely pleased. I'm going to come out here later and my wife's going to be like, why were you yelling? Because we're making art. Let me darken this up a little bit. Oh, wow. Dude, all the calls being made right now are just out of control. All the calls being made right now are so good. Okay. Wow. Wow. That was sick. That was an extremely powerful... That was extremely powerful few minutes right there. Oh my god. It looks so dope. Okay. Man, I am really just wondering if I'm wrapping it up right now because it looks so dank. I'm really wondering what I'm really torn. I'm really torn right now because I could come in and just put the little wave. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the little wave pattern in, little wave, and I think we're going to wrap it up. In fact, I might even put it only on the right. I think that's what this needs, and I think we're going to wrap this up. That was really awesome. It's like you spend an hour and a half setting up the house of cards. Well, I don't want to say you knock it down because that's like a bad thing. So we're just get the little wave pattern in here. Yeah. Oh. Yes. Yes. Wow. I'm so down with that. I'm just looking at it. I'm just looking at it on the screen. I'm just trying to see. I think I'm done though, man. That looks sick. I'm pretty stoked about pausing it there. All right. I'll take a few questions. If anyone wants to ask me any questions, ask me anything. I'm going to take like 30 to 45 seconds just to make sure, like I'll take like a minute or two just to make sure I actually want to wrap it up. Because sometimes, I feel like I'll end the stream and then maybe I'll look at it and be like, oh, you know what I should have done? So I just want to make sure we're good. I mean, this is pretty experimental, but I'm feeling really good about it, honestly. So if anyone wants to ask me anything, go for it, and then we'll start wrapping this up. We will start wrapping it up. I mean, then we will wrap it up. Then it will be wrapped. It will be wrapped. I'm just going to come in and make the clouds a little bit more opaque going on. They're a little translucent over here. Cool. And I want to get that like nice shape. It looks a little bit too. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Cool. Hot takes on the Book of Revelation. It's a really good question, man. Yeah, the Book of Revelation is really interesting to me. I was talking about it yesterday. It's really interesting that it ends the Bible. To me, that is very interesting. It's also very interesting for me that it has to be read in kind of like a symbolic capacity, right? I mean, doesn't it have to be? So that's really all I could say like off the cuff is that it's very interesting to me the Bible ends with like this hyper symbolic like visionary experience and then that's like the last book in it. I don't really have a solid theory on like what all those different symbols mean. I've heard a lot of really compelling stuff, but I'm not totally 100% sold on it one way or the other. Yeah, I'm feeling like we're done with this one. This is pretty dope. I could paint up some pink in the clouds, but then I feel like I'm pushing it. I feel like I'm pushing my luck there. So yeah, we're just gonna call this one done. I'm pretty stoked about that. Okay, wrapping it up. Well, this was a pretty interesting one because we talked about the symbols a lot. Really, what I'm trying to like get with the show is that it is like not really about the painting as much as like seeing the creative process unfold in a way and like talking about it. So I feel like I'm still mastering like talking about what's going on versus having interesting conversation back and forth with you guys and also painting at the same time. So thank you for sticking with me on that. I feel like I'm kind of like piecing it together how I want to like MC and like control all those things. This one was interesting because for a long time, basically for the whole like middle part, I was kind of like, yeah, are we feeling it? What's going on? And you could see that kind of in my opinion, like what really brought it together was at the end, just like hazing it out a little bit. With watercolor, if things are too controlled, then it just feels kind of like too tight. Maybe like contrived is like the right word. And you really need to bring that like chaos element out into it. In fact, I think what was most successful about the other ones that we've done in this kind of circle format was that the chaos and then the drawing and planning of it was more like woven together skillfully. Here, I think that actually what made this one different was that by making everything dark, I kind of locked myself into painting on top of that darkness, which creates this like very 1-2 stacked effect, and it's kind of hard to get things integrated with the back and the front. Whereas before with the earlier ones we've done in this circle format, by using like the brighter colors and then you can draw in darker and then you kind of get that like interplay going on again. So yeah, I'm not really sure what I would do differently, but I really like how it came out. Like I mentioned before, in the painting sketching format, just in terms of like getting things going, I really love this like parallel between the dude getting eaten by the monster and then the dude getting baptized. I'm definitely going to use that for something else. And yeah, also one last thing, I'm not going to like go on too much about it, but I think the other thing that kind of pushed it over at the end was I had this very like tame kind of like earthy pigment color scheme. And I think that by adding in this like sour kind of like chemically purple really like pushed it up a lot. I mentioned that way back when we first went over the palette, like in the second show, I think it was. Actually, it was the second show, where sometimes what I like to do is use all classical pigments and then I'll drop in like a hot pink or like the sour purple, and it'll just add like a kind of different space and flavor to it. So yeah, next time maybe next time we'll shoot for that. I think next time also I'll break out the gold pigment, so maybe we'll get a little bit more of like the trippy medieval kind of like stepped up neo medieval vibe going on. Overall, though, this was a good one. I feel really good about like experimenting live and not really having a plan. Maybe I'll have a plan next time, but I like how this one came out. That was really cool. So yeah, we're exactly at 2 hours. I guess that's how long these are going to be. I originally thought they'd be an hour, but it seems like that's definitely not going to happen. So yeah, if you watch this, thanks for watching this. I'll take one last question, just because it's a good one. Ever notice the mainstream media represent evil things with positive aesthetics? Yeah, dude, that's like literally what they do. And in case anyone is still getting it going, that would be a big thing to like look into and like think about, is that evil comes in like beautiful forms, right? Like people imagine like the devil and stuff, but when the devil comes, it's like as an angel of light. You know what I mean? So evil comes in like seductive form. So yeah, mainstream media representing evil things with positive aesthetics. Yeah, dude, only literally all the time. Of course, they have to like dress it up in like gold and stuff and make it look nice, you could say. So yeah, for sure. Anyway, cool. I really love doing this. I really love that people are like into it and like watching it and stuff. If you've been watching it and want to let me know how's it going, because I'm the host, I'm not watching it, you are. I don't know how it is to be watching it. If you want to let me know if it's like dope or if something needs to be improved or something or whatever, hit me up, let me know. Otherwise, thanks a lot for watching this. It's only getting doper. I feel like every time we turn the radness up like a little bit, so thanks for being a part of that. And yeah, guys, I mean, I really just love being a member of the weird internet crew. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for checking it out. And I will catch you guys on the internet where we hang out together. I'll see you guys later. Have a great night.